Welcome back, Oh my God, dude, this mic's stand now. All right. All right. So fine. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Where Is This Going? We have a great one in store for you guys today. Just wanted to give you a quick intro before we get the episode started. I just wanted to give you a heads up of this amazing conversation that I had with Kyd Kane, the Poet Laureate of Grand Rapids. Just an amazingly beneficial experience and conversation, sitting down with her in the room, just feeling the energy that she exudes, which I addressed pretty early on because it's palpable. But we talk a lot about poetry and just all types of expression and the importance of expression and protecting energy and just self-awareness. And like I said, such a beneficial experience. I hope you guys get as much out of it as I did. You can follow Kyd Kane on Instagram and on Twitter at Kyd Said It. That's KYD Said It. And check out her website, kydsaidit.com. And you can follow her on TikTok at Kydn Around, KYD and Around. And she also came to share some awesome events coming up soon. July 11 at the Hideout. You can catch an open mic featuring also our very own Grand Rapids' first Black, queer, woman Poet Laureate. Kyd Kane will be there with music curated by DJ E. Hill. You can check that out at the Hideout. And that is at 8:30. Oh, sorry, 7 to 10. 7 to 10 o'clock, July 11. And be sure to check out the Pride and Poetry Everywhere, Saturday, July 17, also from 7 to 10. A lot of great artists and a full queer lineup out in Saugatuck at Saugatuck Brewing Company, 7 to 10 on July 17th. Don't miss it. Also, if you want to check me out, come see where I'm doing comedy. I'll be performing tonight, actually, or whenever this comes out. I'll be performing Monday night, the 5th, at Fulton Street Pub. You can catch me every Thursday at Parrots Lounge, 9 o'clock here in Holland. And I'll be at the Comedy Project in Grand Rapids doing Comedy Outlet Mondays next Monday, July 12th. That show starts at 7. And I'll be doing the Laughter Layover, making my way down to Portage again, finally. Get to do some shows in Southwest Michigan. I'll be at the Laughter Layover, which is at the Travelers Cafe and Pub in Portage, 8:30. Be there. Also, it's not until the end of the month, but I'll be doing the Soul of Detroit showcase in Sterling Heights, and that's July 29. And then July 30th, I'll be doing Laughs at the Pack, the indoor dog park in Grand Rapids. That show starts, I don't remember when, but you can check it out on Facebook. Just search Laughs at the Pack. And yeah, come see me every Thursday at Parrots. Enjoy the episode, please. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Where Is This Going? I'm your host, Hunter Miles, and this is Where Is This Going? A podcast about artists you may not know yet, but hopefully will soon grow to appreciate at the very least. And today we have someone I hope you do know. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the studio, Kyd Said It. Thank you for coming, Kyd. Kyd Kane.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. The Poet Laureate of Grand Rapids, our first Black, female, queer Poet Laureate of Grand Rapids. It's just an honor to have you in the studio.
Oh, peace and love. Thank you for having me.
Of
here.
course.
Took us a little bit, but I'm happy to finally make it.
I know.
Everything happens in time, right?
Exactly. If the universe wants it to be, it will be. Through much trial and tribulation.
Absolutely.
But we got here. Well, how's your holiday weekend going?
This isn't my holiday.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
This isn't my holiday. I did have the pleasure of celebrating Juneteenth with my family.
Of course.
But today is just another day for me,
Yep.
where I will honor the freedom that I wish to feel in my body at all times,
Amen.
and set intention for freedom for everyone else.
Of course.
And that's how I'll use today.
Amen. There is tons of celebration going on, so it's hard to, especially in the city of Grand Rapids, not travel through it. I meant mostly, how are you sleeping?
Oh, yeah.
It's so loud, really.
Yeah, it's been definitely lots of booms and bangs and stuff like that. But, I can find peace anywhere.
Amen.
Yeah.
How do you stay so calm? That was the first thing about your demeanor that I noticed just seeing you in person. I've seen you at another event, diatribe event. Diatribe. I always get caught up on nouns, really. But I saw you at another diatribe event. I didn't speak to you, but you just have a calm energy about you that just is so collected that I can't not address it.
Oh, well, I appreciate the acknowledgement of the calm and the peace that I have. I've been claiming peace in my life. I've been speaking peace into existence, and I get there by lots of different things. I have a breathing practice. I breathe all the time, intentional breath. I do Qigong. I'm outside. I walk. I'm mindful.
Of course.
And I think that is the thing that puts us in a position to experience peaceful energy and create peaceful energy. And so wherever I go, I'm hoping that you feel calm, that you feel peace, that you feel love, that you feel intentionality, and that is just something that I require for myself. And so I'm glad to know that energy is vibrating outwards.
Right. No, it definitely is, and that's such a powerful message of mindfulness, because it really, whether you know it or not, because as you are practicing mindfulness in your breathing, but just also in the energy that you exude, whether you know it or not, the effect that it has on others, just because of your own determination, really, it's powerful, and it's I don't know, it's inspirational.
Thank you.
Of course, I want to get down to how I know you, or how I know of you, which is through poetry.
I'm interested in that.
Yes, I mean, I had heard of, I had a friend, Devron Thomas, who had brought your profile to my knowledge a while ago. He's a photographer and stand-up comedian. He's been on the podcast. But he had brought your profile to my knowledge, I want to say it was 2019. I don't remember. But I was checking out, Stella's Why Am I Now? Drunken Retort as well a couple times, never wanting to go up. But just, I appreciate a lot of poetry, but always, that was something I couldn't be vulnerable in without just making laughs and things like that. So I do want to, I know you from poetry, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
I know you as a poet. So I do want to get down to, I guess, what got you into expressing yourself through poetry and writing. Like you had said before, you've been writing since a child, since a lot of people learn to write. But the expression.
Yeah, I started off writing for myself, just learning how to put words together and using language as a vehicle for to fuel my imagination.
Right.
To be able to say, this is what I'd like to see for myself. This is what I wish I could have. Living vicariously through stories and poems and things that I would write and create, as well as consuming lots of language and reading lots of books and stuff as a young person. And so just gaining an understanding of the power of language and how, with your imagination, you can create anything that you want.
Right.
And, now as an adult, I get to use those same concepts to kind of manifest the life that I want for myself. You know what I'm saying? To say, this is what I imagine, or this is what I believe is possible, and then using self-expression as a means to be able to attract those things to me, and then also just like as a means to grow and heal.
Of course, and it would make sense that these types of ideas or imaginations or the creativity in your brain would be placed there for such a reason to bring it to fruition. I mean, I would say it's easy to believe that. how long have you been manifesting? I guess, how long have you been just believing in bringing things into your life?
Probably I started a more mindful, intentional spiritual practice in about 2013.
Okay.
And at that time, I was struggling a lot with religion and my space, place, identity, things that I had never really considered. I was like able to see myself, and in that, I had to start being honest. I had to start seeking truth.
Right.
Had to start finding ways to get calm and to be grounded. And I kind of felt like I was like this in the world, kind of like shook up.
Definitely.
And so, in trying to settle, you start to just explore different things. You start to read different things and take in different information and consider other stuff.
Right.
And so within that consideration, I started going to counseling and started just like reading a bunch and really just connecting with parts of me and things that I had never done because of my religion or like the way that I was raised.
Yeah. And it's I've talked about like just the ebbs and flows of life and how it is like peaks and valleys. A lot of us can look at it. But while you're in those valleys or whatever, where we are kind of shook up or just kind of maybe settling, getting ready to go out to our next peak or whatever, it is a lot easier to see it's a lot easier to reflect when you're down there. It's not easy to reflect when you're on top of your mountain, whatever that mountain is, whatever hill you just climbed. That's why we always say to savor those moments, because you're not gonna. Yeah. It's hard to reflect there.
Yeah, you acknowledge and feel at the ground when you're grounded. You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? And then, you go up, and then, like you said, it's ebb and flow. And when you come back down, you get to take a deep breath and be like, wow. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be still enough to take that moment to even be able to breathe into the experience that you just had. So, yeah.
Right. And I think to take a step back to measure your next experience, measure your next, in the peaks and valleys analogy, your next climb up that peak or whatever. And you can also see the pitfalls or whatever brought you down from that hill, whether it be pitfalls or just natural a come down, because no one can live on the hill forever.
No, of course not.
But
if you live there, then where else do you go?
Exactly. Right. You're not growing. It's stagnant. Yeah, we have to have valleys in order to grow.
Absolutely.
See, no, you are exuding a peace over the room now. I don't like this. No, I do like it. I enjoy it.
We should take a deep breath together then.
I appreciate this. Now, you brought up Qigong, was it?
Qigong, yeah.
Qigong.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
It is a breathing movement, mindfulness practice, similar to Tai Chi. And it's just something that I picked up as a means to move energy through my body and to I don't want to hold on to anything. I like to release and let go. And so Qigong is a practice that allows me to do that.
I asked that because it was something I hadn't heard of, so I'd like to learn things. So thank you for that, bringing some culture into my life. But now that you said it, I'm glad I did, because just speaking of Tai Chi and those types of breathing exercises, and just, for me, it would be spreading, but moving the energy throughout your body. I've struggled with anxiety in just a general sense, really, but since, I don't know, high school, I have always struggled, almost physiologically, I think. I don't know. It might be a physiological reaction, but like when I'm having an anxiety attack, like it just feels like something is trying to jump out of my chest. Like it feels like a ball of energy is trapped. And so, to be able to kind of, like I said, spread that energy out, that's what it feels like. It just needs to be, it's just a buildup of tension.
The goal is, we're just a channel for energy. You know what I'm saying? We have energy flowing through us that all the time. We have an energy field that extends beyond our physical body. And just like, knowing that right now you are encompassed in my energy field, and I am yours.
Right.
And so, when you're in a space to where you are, or you have experience lots of things, we compile energy. And if you don't have a way to expel energy, then you keep outdated energy on you. And with outdated energy, you feel things like anxiety, you feel things like depression and sadness and doubt and fear.
Right.
That energy can stick to you. And so, having a practice of breathing in and expelling and saying and saying aloud, and in your heart and in your mind and your body, that you release energy that is no longer serving to you.
Of course.
And just inflicting that off and getting rid of it. And so that I definitely lived with anxiety for a very long time, and it's still something that arises in me, but I'm in control.
Right.
I'm in control.
And that's the important part, because it's still something. These are the struggles of this life that we are in these vessels that we're not chosen, I guess. Like, we didn't choose the bodies that we live in. We didn't choose the world or environment, really, that we are living.
But we get to.
Exactly.
Yeah. We get to.
Well,
we can't necessarily change the actual dwelling, but we can change we can change the body.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You have full control.
You have full control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
you get to choose what you do with it.
Exactly. But while this world that we live in we're still going to have the stresses of whatever world we are in. That's something we can't.
To some degree.
Yeah. But what we can do is also control the stresses let into our world and what we choose to focus on.
You get to create your own universe if you choose. And there are some things that we can't avoid. But ultimately, what you allow into your energy field, what you watch, what you listen to, who you talk to, the relationships that you cultivate, the spaces that you go to.
Right.
Those are a reflection of the world, right?
Yeah.
And so,
your worldview.
Your worldview. You get to change. You get to decide.
Yeah.
So that just always understanding the control aspect that you have, the power that you have over your experience. It doesn't have to be like, this is just what it is.
Right.
There are so many areas where that is so.
Right.
But then you can pivot. Some people have the privilege to do that easier than others, and I acknowledge that part.
Right. And definitely going back to the privilege is such a great point, but I want to go back to just just to saying that this is what it is. There are so many things in our life that are just out of our control. So we have to settle with, this is what it is, but I have to settle on my outlook of it. But I think because of so many of those things, some people overlook the things that they do have control over. So yeah, I definitely understand that. Like the people we surround ourselves with, the places that we go, we don't have to surround ourselves with people that we don't like to please the ones that we do want around. It's all about knowing your power and the choices.
Yeah, I've been using poetry and self-expression as a means to get comfortable advocating for myself and being able to set proper boundaries to say, I won't allow this. This is not something that I'm interested in having. And that is not something that most of us are taught to do.
No.
And so, it is important for it to be a practice of saying, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I feel, this is what I deserve. And then, you can use that as a vehicle to create the proper boundaries, to be able to create that universe and that life that you want for yourself. But as long as you have no boundaries, then you don't have control over your experience.
Because that's boundaries has been such a hard thing for me to personally deal with, just because there's so much that I quote unquote want to achieve or whatever. But as a creative person, I tend to spend myself, I just stretch myself way too thin. But I do want, as a creative mind, do you I don't see you struggling with this, but do you struggle with just overexertion when it comes to your passions?
I think I struggle with overexertion just being a human being.
Oh, of course.
We're living on this planet, and we have so many things that impact our experiences. We live in a society that is capitalistic. We live in a society that has so many issues. And so, to not be impacted by that would just
Right.
be
Of course.
kind of impossible. Like we're all
It'd be ignorant. Yeah.
yeah, we I'm definitely impacted by that. But realistically, this work that I do is less about work and more about me being authentically myself. And so like the more that I find balance in honoring me, the more that I find balance in acknowledging and admiring and being proud of and working towards climbing the mountain of me,
Right.
the easier it becomes for me to just create and do the things that I want to do naturally, right? Because it's like it's a natural happening of my life experience, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not working at writing or doing these things if I'm working at me. It's just something that happens. It's like,
and the best art to consume, personally, the best art to consume of any medium is genuine expression.
yeah, this came from my body. This came from my heart. This came from my experience. This came from my pain. This came from my need to grow, to change, right? You know, it's nothing. I have tried to force things.
Right.
And, when you try to force things, it does become exhausting.
Yeah.
Right? And so, it's important at that time to breathe in. But, being an entrepreneurial artist and someone who is not trying, but who is sustaining a life through art and creativity and expression, the best part of that is learning how to love and take care of myself and to honor my spirit, my being, so that it just becomes like breathing. My expression becomes like breathing.
So it is a natural state. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that. Because I always struggle. I mean, I don't always struggle, but I always ask people who, if they do, because everyone I bring on here is an artist of some sort. But I always have to ask, because I know it's a creativity struggle of getting into that creative mindset or getting into a flow state or trying to conjure a creative spirit.
It's like having the expectation of, like, I can't wake up every day and be mad that it's not raining.
Right.
I can't wake up every day and be upset that the sun isn't shining and that there are clouds. I can't always want clouds.
Right.
You have to allow things to arise in you naturally, and then when they arise, honor the thing that is arising. And so, no, I may not always be able to write the poem, but I loved on myself, and the art of love is so important. I might not be able to love on myself perfectly, but I wrote this fire poem that gets me closer to that. I may not be able to write a poem or love on myself, but I dressed myself in a way that made me feel whole, that made me feel honored. And so it's like giving all of the areas of expression a space to live without having the expectation for something else to arise.
Right.
Love what comes up from you and just be present in that. And so, like, and that's when you get back to you have the ebb and flows, and you go in cycles and circles, and you get back to a point where you can express maybe in a new way, or go back to an old way that you express.
Having separate outlets of expression allows also for those ebbs and flows in those separate outlets as well. But when one because you can't force an inspiration. No. It's impossible. And so then you just have to look for inspiration elsewhere.
You can look for inspiration elsewhere. I think too, for instance, I haven't been writing a lot of new poems, right? But I have been expressing myself to the people in my life, and talking to them about things that have bothered me, or boundaries that I like to set, or things that are happening with me. I'm expressing through them, and so now I have I've conquered something. I'm like going to the next level, and at that level, I'll write about it because I've experienced it. Right? Giving yourself not the ability to just sit in a space and just expect things to come, or expect a picture to come. You got to go and view things. You got to go and see things. You got to go and experience things.
Exactly.
And so
that experience,
it's the experience part that keeps you able to create and able to, always be in a state of making some kind of art. Everything we do is an art.
Right. And especially when I've said that many a time, everything we do is an art. People had asked me why I brought like local business owners or just entrepreneurs on. Well, because that's running a business, even what little I try to do, is an art that I have no talent in. Like and that's what I'm continually trying to gain more knowledge of, trying to market myself and just have an entrepreneurial. That's good. That word's just gonna be fucked up. I'm sorry.
Entrepreneurial energy in your
Yeah,
space so that you can grow and learn from it, right? It's all about exposing yourself and putting yourself in a position to experience the art of the way another person does something, so that you can in turn be inspired enough to find that energy within yourself. And it's just like listening to music and listening to songs and then going to create some music, not copying, but being inspired by. And so you can be inspired by the art of someone's business skills and how they are navigating through the world.
Right. So once again, getting back to into inspirations, what did you have any inspirations when it came to poetry, or was it basically just a free means of expression that you had just flowed out, I guess?
As a child, I wrote for companionship, for friendship, right? I spent a lot of time in spaces with people who did not have capacity to be present for me, who had things happening in their own lives and where my development wasn't, priority for them. Not that they didn't have a desire to, just life didn't allow it to be so. Yeah. And so, I, as a child, used my art as a means to create friendship, to create beauty, right? And so then, that was my inspiration for writing, wanting to feel, wanting to experience something else, something different. And then when I started to want to express my stuff out loud, it was because I was viewing the world through a lens of wanting to see some changes, becoming aware and honest about race relations and the type of society that we live in, and learning about different aspects that have affected my life experience. So I wrote a lot from a place of my racial identity, from my identity as a woman, from my identity as a queer person at first. That's kind of when I started sharing and expressing, it was all about identity. And now in this phase, as I've worked through those things, it's all right, I can write from that place, but how do I work on this universe? How do I work on this body? How do I work on the spirit?
How do you affect change within? Yeah. Definitely.
So working really hard to want to help change the world. Right. And then it's just the biggest ring of change starts when you tap into the community of self. Right. And so, it was always important for me when I started coming out. It's just how do I build community? How do I change community? How can I have my voice be a part of a community that vibrates some type of change? And it's just that's cool and all.
But that's a byproduct.
But that's, if I follow my heart, if I honor myself, then I can do that naturally. It's just something that occurs naturally and genuinely. So instead of talking at people, talking to myself and allowing them to bear witness to the ways in which I've changed. So even just you coming in here and you saying, I've been paying attention to you and I can feel your energy and your vibration. And so that's a reflection of me, bringing change by focusing my energy inward.
Exactly. And there are a lot, the only way I think you can have true and true and pure intentions about affecting change in an outward manner is if you have done the work inwardly to be able to work with a pure intention.
You got to see yourself so that you can see other people, right? Exactly. And so we live in a society where so many people don't even have the foresight to kind of honor their own feelings and emotions. They shove everything down. And so it's like having the expectation of a person who hasn't acknowledged their own hurt and pain is just unrealistic to expect them to come in the world and honor you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's just when you're not gonna acknowledge, especially all the hurt and pain and the environment, and bringing up that thing as well, then you can't expect them to acknowledge it as well. It's that never mind.
Yeah,
they
have to be able to. Yeah. People have to be able to see themselves a little bit, to honor their bodies, honor themselves, honor their experience, honor their feelings, honor their emotions, and then it becomes a ring. Are you acknowledging the feelings and the emotions of the people that you live with? Right. Okay. No. All right.
Let's work there.
Then we got to work there. So you
Yeah.
got to start with yourself. Then you go to the house, and then you go to your workplace, and then
Exactly.
it extends to your community.
Yes.
Like, all right, I've grown enough to be able to say, I can see how this person 6 blocks away may be experiencing this hardship, or may have an experience that differs from mine, right? Because
Right.
I've acknowledged me, and then I took the time to acknowledge the people that I love, and so now I can see you. And some people don't get there.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was saying. You can't if you can't acknowledge your own past or your own feelings or whatever you are feeling at that moment, then how can you expect to see or honor or acknowledge the past or experiences of others? Yeah, it's impossible.
Absolutely. Those people with the inner turmoil, they can't see. They're never going to acknowledge you. They're ignoring themselves. And so,
Right.
you know.
It's all about calming your own storm and getting up on that rock so you can see who else is drowning. Like, it's about conquering your own battle within first.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how to phrase this, but so do you want to talk about your position in the community?
Oh, like as poet laureate?
Yes.
Oh, I don't mind.
I don't know how to phrase the question just because I don't know what a laureate is. That's
It's an honor.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
I am.
This episode of Where Is This Going is brought to you by Off the Grid, house of the vintage and handcrafted and created in secret. Off the Grid is located at 2863 West Shore Drive, apartment 114 here in Holland, Michigan. And Off the Grid has everything you need to get exactly that. Off the Grid. Before you go away for the weekend, make sure you get hooked up with a fresh drip, with a new glass piece. They are a curated vintage apparel shop mixed with a premium glass shop, and just here to curate a vibe for you to get off the grid. Barber coming soon. They are, like I said, located at 2863 West Shore Drive, apartment 114, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Check them out. Tell them we sent you, and you will get 10% off of any glass or merchandise purchase. Yeah, just mention Where Is This Going, and say what up to Alex and Bruce. Sorry for the interruption. Maybe you saw an ad, but we were just talking. We were just talking about your position in the community as the Grand Rapids Poet Laureate, which, as I learned, laureate is an honor, or basically means honor. Anyways, you were getting into explaining it.
Poet laureate, and I've been selected as a person that gets to be an ambassador of poetry, push forward the art of poetry, self-expression,
Right.
do cool things, introduce people to poetry, aid in putting poetry everywhere, and
Right. Which
art.
I think a lot, if you live in Grand Rapids and see billboards, you've seen quite a few of your initiatives, because I didn't see a lot of poetry. I didn't live in Grand Rapids for very long, but I was here often. Okay, anyways, but I didn't see a lot of poetry on billboards, especially when I was on the highway, which was really cool.
Oh, you saw the work on the highway too?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What's up?
But I appreciate it because, one, expression is so overlooked just in general. Just trying to express yourself and or giving others the freedom to express themselves is pretty overlooked when it comes to bringing children up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's just go to school, and the only way that through our parents' expectations or that we see sometimes, some of us, I'm definitely just speaking from personal experience now, but is the only way of expression is through living up to expectation. It's the only
Someone else is in control of the metric system.
right. It's the only acceptable way in that. Yeah.
When it comes down to honoring the expression of others, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. If you cannot honor your own personal expression, it's hard for you to honor the expression of others, and it also means that you're going to have to do some work.
Yeah.
You can't if you suppress expression, then you don't have to change. You can just kind of stay where you are.
Right.
When you give people the space to speak and you honor their expressions, that means that you're willing to do the work that it takes in order to be able to shift that paradigm or whatever.
Yeah, and to share. Sometimes it's a sharing of attention, but also just a sharing of ideas, meaning not having one ruling idea. or one ruling opinion.
Because more than one thing can exist at the same time, in which we see that all the time. But I guess in the ways that we that we navigate through feelings and emotions, we expect it to be linear.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Binary,
right now,
right, yeah.
on the binary. So right now, if my favorite color is yellow, I'm not going to be mad at you if you have a different favorite color than me. You get that your favorite color gets to exist as a part of your experience. We all have preferences. We have our things.
Yeah.
We have the things that we want to feel. Your favorite food is not my favorite food.
Exactly.
So
that doesn't mean your food shouldn't exist.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't honor, what you'd like to have for dinner sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because so it's just like that's just, on the bottom of the spectrum. But when you start looking at that beyond, you can feel and express and do whatever it is that honors what you've been through, the history of your experience. And I think that we're always under the impression that people experience things the exact same way we do. And so we're trying to force them to do something, to be something.
Or to see something the way we see it.
Yeah.
Which is, without living the same experience, it's impossible to get someone to see through our eyes.
Right.
So you received this honor because of your poetry and your work in the community, or you were called to do this duty, I guess?
Well, I've been working and doing art and poetry in the city, and so the Grand Rapids Public Library, every 3 years they select a poet laureate. There's a committee that reviews applications and people that submit to talk about what they've been doing and the type of work they've been doing with poetry. And I was going to be doing great things with poetry, with or without the title of poet laureate. I was going to be doing what was a reflection of what I desire in my life. And so this is just a happening of my life experience, of me actually honoring the things that are important to me. And I was on the Poet Laureate committee that selected the first Black Poet Laureate, which was Marcel Fable Price, who's a peer of mine and also someone that, has honored my expression and the way that I show up in the world. And I for that reason, I get to work with the Diatribe and do work with the Diatribe. But I was on that committee that selected him, and I wrote down, because thoughts become things, I'll be the next poet laureate. And I lived my life in accordance with, with that desire.
Exactly. And doing all the things that, you don't just get the position or the honor because you want it or because you said it. It's because you are not only putting that out there, but you're putting it out there almost as an accountability to do the work as well.
It's just something that's in alignment to my desires, the desires of my heart. I would like to be living a life where I use poetry, art, self-expression as a means to change myself and also my surroundings.
Right.
And so, that's why this position was given to me, where I was chosen for it, and I worked for it as well. I love poetry. I've been doing things with poetry in the community for 5 years or so. Right. And it's a reason why I'm here.
Yeah. How was there a struggle to, I'm sure I need to stop assuming things. Was there a struggle to finding that purpose of
what purpose?
When you had said that's why I'm here? Oh. Did you mean that's why you're here right here, or that's why you're here on this plane?
I'm here in this dimension as a means to work through things that I've had to experience in other lives, and in this life now, as I heal, I get to be a beacon of that healing, beacon of peace, beacon of love, because I've worked to find that peace. I've worked to exude that love. Right. And that my overall purpose is to be here to shine light and to get people comfortable with expression, and doing that because I've done it for me, right? I've elevated myself through honoring my feelings and emotions, and not everybody gets the privilege of having the space to be able to honor their feelings and emotions, but I took the space because I refuse to live under I refuse to kind of live in the matrix. I refuse to be trapped, and so I'll go with I'll go without to have my freedom. I'll go without to feel when I need to feel, right? Because if I'm working, not to say that we all shouldn't be working, because people have to work, right? But you know, if I'm a very emotional person, I feel my feelings very intensely. And there are times where I need to honor that. And going into the world and working under someone else who tells me what I have to do, I don't like rules.
Right.
And so that's something that we have to say too, just on the table. I don't follow rules well. I like to move to the beat of my own drum. This is my experience.
Exactly.
And so I cannot put myself in a position to have someone in control of my experience. And so because of that, I get to honor my heart. I get to honor my expression.
Right.
And because I'm honoring my expression, I get to live a life that's kind of free, that allows me to be and create and do fun things.
And it's a life that you've created with that freedom,
yes,
too.
because I said so. Because Kyd said it.
Because Kyd said it. You can follow kydsaidit.com or go to kydsaidit.com. Also, follow Kyd Said It on Instagram and Twitter.
Kyd Kane Poetry on Facebook.
Beautiful. We still got more time. I don't know why I'm doing.
I mean, drop it right in right now.
Those are mid plugs, yeah.
There's a bunch of people out there just like me that listen to podcasts with pens and notebooks. At Kyd Said It. At kydsaidit.com. Kidding around on TikTok. I love TikTok.
Okay, you love TikTok?
I do.
I was so reluctant to go to TikTok.
I was too. And my niece, who thinks I'm so cool, she's 9 years old.
Oh,
she follows,
that must be cool.
She follows me and watches like she reads articles and watches my YouTubes, and you know, she thinks that I am the bee's knees, and because of that, I get to relish in that moment to say that there's someone out there that thinks that I'm great, right? And so one thing that she said, she came up to me and she was like, I know you're famous and all, and you got merch, but you don't have TikTok. How you gonna be famous without TikTok? And I'm like, I think I'm too old for TikTok.
You ain't really popping.
Yeah, and she's like, you ain't really popping because you don't got TikTok. And I was like, I think I'm too old for TikTok. She's like, no, it's old people on TikTok. People are just on there being themselves. That's what my 9-year-old niece said. So I said, okay. So I got TikTok in December, and it's like a video diary. It's like something I'm there expressing myself. You know, some people do cool things like dances. I'm not doing any dances on there. There's an audience out there for me that's willing to hear me be vulnerable, and hear me express myself, and just like, you know, talk and crack jokes, and you know, it's a space where I get to be vulnerable, and I get to say that there's some discomfort that lies there, but what comes along with discomfort is growth and change. And so I love expressing myself. Mostly that's my favorite platform. I love TikTok.
I just got TikTok, I think it was like a week or 2 weeks ago, and I've posted 2 videos of just like stand-up clips that I did, because I don't want to be.
I saw it. I saw one of your clips too.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it just was seen. But like, it's hard for me to, the whole platform of TikTok was just weird to me. It's a whole thing of, I was a Vine kid, and now it's a whole. I
also thought I was too old for Vine.
Yeah.
So Vine was not something that I ever got the opportunity to experience.
Right.
And so, you know, TikTok is something that, you know, gives people the ability to, what TikTok has done for me is it's broadened my horizons. It's allowed me to see people like me. Your For You page is like a reflection of your inner thoughts. You know, there's things that are cultivated based on the things that you like, and what that does is it gives you an opportunity to see people that are a reflection of you. And what happens when you get to see yourself is that you get to honor yourself. You get to be like, not think that you're the anomaly. You could be like, oh, there's someone else that I can identify with. And when you can identify with other people, you can grow in confidence. And I feel like that's what TikTok has done for me.
Of course. And I mean, that's the same thing with just, not the same thing obviously, because it is such a broad, like you said, a broadened horizon. But I hear people, I'm sure, have you been called an inspiration by someone else? And they've come to you and said, you've been a real inspiration. That, I mean, to me, that's what that feels like. It's just knowing that, like you said, the way that you're living your life is affecting change in a positive way, the way that you would like. Maybe we don't have any control really on what we inspire, unless we are just doing that, living our true, genuine selves with intention. But what other people do with their perception of us too is kind of, that may be that's out of our control. Yeah,
you know, I don't want to be perceived, but I understand that that's a part of the human experience. And so, you know, it's always about that honor. As long as I'm authentically myself, you can feel however you want to feel about it. That's for you.
Exactly.
That is a reflection of who you are, where you are standing, how you receive me. I know what I did it for. I know what it was for me.
Exactly.
And then what you do with it is up to you. And it's just like, you know, it's the same way with the way that I receive information and the way that I, experience others.
That's right. And part of it when working or just interacting with others who may not be, because I'm sure not everyone is spiritually grown as you.
Yeah.
But mature. That's spiritually mature enough to, I guess, almost run others' interactions or actions like through a filter. Is that what you feel you have to do?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's right. It's like it's the seeing of self.
Yeah.
To be able to acknowledge how a person got to that expression or to why they are where they are, right? And so, you know, I know that I don't always do the thing that is optimal for everyone else involved in parties.
Right.
Or I don't always say the most optimal thing. I say the thing that I need to say.
Yeah.
I do the thing that I need to do.
Right.
And I know that may potentially affect others.
Yeah.
And
and then that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Is to acknowledge it, because there's no changing the past, and all we can do is recognize patterns
and move, and then grow in that.
Exactly.
Yeah, grow.
And then so when it comes to interacting with others who are, I don't know, doing those same things or what we feel we see in ourselves, then it's a lot. You have to run it through a filter.
Absolutely.
There was more.
There can be more. We can talk about like other
more.
stuff.
Of course.
That's not art. That doesn't have to do with poetry.
Of course. What are you doing now with just life in general? I know you were traveling recently, and I saw you shared a great experience on Instagram of going skydiving. This was not so recent, but
yeah, just in the last few weeks, I've gone skydiving. 3 months to the date from the date from that, which would have been around my birthday time. I climbed a frozen waterfall, and so I'm in a stage of life where I just want to face fears and conquer things and give myself the opportunity to expand. Right? Everything right now for me is about expansion. How do I create boundaries that are bigger and wider and expand my territory? And so I do that by, climbing the mountain of me, to say, why this brings you discomfort. Why? Why does it bring you discomfort? Because it's not familiar. Okay, it's not familiar, then get familiar. Exactly. And in that familiarity, see what happens. And once you see what happens, grow. There's a lesson from conquering fears and from facing very difficult things in the world. And so I'm excited to do more of that, to face fears. Not just climbing out of mountains, but like I talked to my mom and like told my mom how I feel and took control of a conversation and said, hey, I love you, but I'm an adult.
Right.
And this is what I expect from this conversation.
Yeah.
That was one of the most scariest things I ever.
Of course.
Not because I don't think my mom loves me, but I don't think that she had the skill to be able to have that conversation without me using what I've been doing with myself to kind of redirect and to gain control.
Right.
And so, that was more scary than jumping from the plane. You know what I'm saying?
Because now like we said, we don't have control over now how this person feels about my journey, about the power that I now have realized in myself. We don't wish to be perceived, but unfortunately, it's
a part of it.
It's another thing we can't control.
Yeah. So learning to, like I say, using language, using poetry, using mindfulness as a means to get closer to bliss, as a means to get closer to my best life. And so I have to face things head on. I've grew in life being avoidant and avoiding things that were difficult to me, and now I have no desire to do that. Exactly. I'm staring at you in the eye. I'm here in my fullness to say, this is what I feel, this is what I have going on, this is what I need, this is what I won't tolerate, right? That's how I gain control of my power. That's how I get closer to bliss. And I'm not there yet. I'm feeling moments of bliss, and bliss like any other feeling, it's going to be fleeting, right?
course,
Because we
yep.
need other things to be able to evolve us, to grow us.
Exactly. To grow, you can't live in this. Ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Ignorance is a constant, or a constant state of ignorance is a constant state of bliss. It's
So it's not, yeah.
But
when you know, you know.
Yeah.
When you grow, when you know and you grow into your power and you explore and you expand, you know that
you're achieving more.
The bliss that you experience in ignorance is just not enough.
Exactly. That's ground level bliss.
That's ground level bliss.
I want to be on this mountain bliss.
Yeah, I went from the crawl space to the basement, thought I was doing something great. Went
Right.
from the basement to the first floor, thought I was doing something great. Going from the first floor to the penthouse, and I know that there's more. There's more. You just keep going after more.
Of course.
By facing fears.
Now, do you see yourself living a life without fear, or do you see fear as a necessary?
Fear is our friend. Fear is a something that is here to guide us, to take us to the next level. If I feel like I've faced every fear, then I'm probably stagnant and I'm feeling kind of stuck. So, I always think that there's an opportunity for me to face new things. I don't want to be a person that runs through the world so fast and that it's just like, oh, I did it all. So taking time to chew on each moment and experience and expand. But yeah, I think that I'm a storm chaser. I'm somebody that wants to experience danger. Right. I like risks. And so, with expansion, when you go to new phases, new stages, new places, you meet new people, you experience an opportunity to feel different fear.
Right. So it's not canceling out your fears. It's getting closer to those fears.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
becoming closer with those fears.
Yes.
And
one of the things that I'm scared of, and one of the things that I still find fear is, I used to be afraid of everything outside, dirt. I used to be afraid of the world. 7 years ago, I was not a friend to the outdoors. There's pictures of me that I've seen in my memories of me being like, I'm not really into nature. I'm on camping and I'm going to stay in this tent, and now you couldn't get me out the dirt. Now you couldn't get me out the water. Now you couldn't get me off a tree. You know what I'm saying? Because the fear lied in the lack of familiarity.
Yep.
And you have to expose yourself to new things in order for you to grow. And so if you are feeling like, you're not experiencing much life, you got to start looking at the shit that you're afraid of.
Right. Yeah, why aren't you experiencing it? Is because you need to get closer to, of course.
I think one of the things that I always like to talk about, I have one of the things that I say in one of my poems, a phrase that came out that has kind of been living with me, is challenge privilege. I have this mug. It's a challenge privilege mug. I use this mug to pick up bugs and things in my apartment that I'm afraid of, scared of. I grew up with a bunch of women that screamed at the top of their lungs at the presence of anything that was unfamiliar, foreigner, that they did not know. And so then out of fear, they see bugs and they smack. I don't want to be somewhere in the world where people are unfamiliar with me and my energy and have their first response to me be to kill me.
Exactly.
So I am trying to honor that energy so that when I go out into the world, that I am guided and I am protected. And so, with fear, I'm scooping bugs up and putting them in this mug and taking this mug outdoors and saying, so nice to meet you. You are not. You're no longer wanted here.
Be on your way.
Be on your way. But I still honor you, and I honor you enough to not kill you out of fear. I honor you enough to not smash you out of fear.
Right.
And when fear arises, we do irrational things. It's like that spider didn't really pose a threat to me.
Did you need it?
It didn't. I didn't need to kill you.
Exactly.
And and so it's like breathing into discomfort, learning to breathe into discomfort. I spent a lot of time in winter outdoors in the cold, right? And the reason why I did that is because I was cursing the cold every time I went outside. Every time. And I was carrying this very aggressive energy with me everywhere I went. And I'm like, I live in Michigan. You staying a while. You've been here a while.
You're going to feel it.
You're going to feel it. And so how can I feel it without having it impact my experience so much that when I show up here, you don't feel peace. You feel anxious, anxiety. You feel just tense energy. And so, I spent time with the outdoors. I spent time in the cold, and I honor and respect and love all of the seasons. And after I took the time to breathe into my feelings, I stopped being cold. I was able to enjoy and experience the bliss of the outdoors. I stopped living in resistance. Fear is resistance.
Yes. It's resistant to new experience. It's resistance to discomfort.
Yeah.
Because so much of our ignorance lies in just refusing to learn new things or expand the horizon, like I did with TikTok. So that's why I didn't want to go on TikTok.
The fear of the unknown.
Exactly.
You don't know how people are going to perceive you. You don't know how you're going.
For me, it was even like downloading the app was such a troublesome thing for me. I was like, I don't know. I don't even want to have it on my phone. I don't want to watch it because then I just see so many, because of the way, not to crap on TikTok again, sorry, but the way that like TikTok had seemed to like take over the media of society right now. Like the trends are just way too catchy. It's to not see.
Well, listen, it's a part of my experience now. Sometimes I'm talking in TikToks, but at the end of the day, it feels really good to witness and experience the expression of the world. And it also puts you in a position to, like, you get to control what it is that you watch. Scroll away. You didn't you don't have to see everything. You don't have to see everything that's on TikTok. But I say I've used TikTok. I've learned so many beautiful things from TikTok. I've been able to acknowledge so many beautiful things about myself. I've met beautiful people on TikTok. So it's just like, you know, not everyone. Right. There is a resistance. Like, what I never watched. What's that? Game of Thrones. I was resistant to Game of Thrones. I still can't sit down and I won't watch it. You don't have to cave into everything. Exactly. TikTok won't be for everything. Just like Game of Thrones was not for me. You know.
Same. Also, Game of Thrones. Never got into it. Breaking Bad was a thing that
never got into Breaking Bad.
Took me a bit.
I have a quota for television. I spent enough time consuming white content, so now I need 2 to 3 black folks or POCs on screen, or I'm not watching it.
It makes sense.
I am just completely over consuming white content and white expression.
I was going to say expression and experience, because it's not the same experience, and it's an experience that has been pressed on me for the whole life. I mean,
just our whole life.
Society.
Yeah, it's just a part of it. And so, like, you know, I get to experience the minds of Jordan Peele and Issa Rae and, you know, just so many, Lena Waithe, and just like so many new people that are coming out and creating work and expressions of my experience that are actually more authentic and true to form. And so, you know, and I don't watch a lot of TV anyways, and that helps. It helps me reduce the amount of TV I consume because I have that quota, and I have the expectation of wanting to see reflections of me and my life experience written in lots of different forms, you know?
I'm getting caught up on Lena Waithe. Have you seen the new season of Master of None?
I just recently started watching the new season of Master of None. And I, as a queer woman, you know, I need that. I need to see those experiences. I need to see that storyline present, because it's good for me.
Of course. And though it's not my experience, I enjoyed, not that I enjoyed, though I did, but I grew from...
It's expansion because of the exposure to a life that's maybe not as close to you.
Right. It's not that it's that I'm fearful of it because it's unfamiliar. It's just unfamiliar to me. Therefore, I approach it with curiosity rather than fear, or I think most hate or whatever forms of hate or expressions of hate come out of fear as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because of that, I felt it so much more profitable, not in this new season, because I haven't watched the new season yet, but there's an episode of her and Dev growing up, like throughout the years, Thanksgiving and stuff like that, which was, I have a black grandmother, so I do, there was things that I did relate to, but just the whole experiencing someone else's experience, or getting to, I guess,
when we watch stuff, we get to kind of like live vicariously through the experience, be able to like see things and identify and like maybe consider perspectives that we wouldn't have before. Right? It's like we're all in a room and we can all see things from our way, and so you know, watching things like that gives you the opportunity to kind of sit in their space and be like, oh, this is not something that I would have even considered, because it's not a part of my experience.
Exactly. So it's again, everything's been a callback so much so far in this conversation. But yes, it's impossible to see someone else's experience or for someone else to literally see things the way you do, because there's no way they can have your exact same
Right.
experience.
Yeah. So you it comes into your energy field, your awareness, then you get to feel it and acknowledge it, and then find a way to admire the person's expression based off what you've witnessed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can only come with when you approach it with a wanting to grow or a wanting to learn and honor, which is intentional.
Yeah.
Who do you see? This is something I've been trying to ask more people
Okay.
about, and it's about expression or about rather representation. But growing up in our society, especially for people of color, black women on TV, there's not always a great image portrayed when it comes to, especially in our white culture, or like our white culture,
our white supremacist society.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. But yeah, it's white driven and it is white supremacist. So because that's, anyways, we all know why. But who have you seen in regards to representation? I know we've talked about Issa Rae, but Lena Waithe. Growing up, though, was there any, maybe not in media, but in your life that you identified with just as an experience, or growing up that you looked to, either in media or life?
I guess I looked to fiction. To identify. So, there's a poem where I say, I had a mom's like Claire Huxtable and a pop's like Uncle Phil, using characters and stories and taking elements that these people possessed and using them as a means to fuel who I was and how I wanted to grow. Right. I always, I looked at Claire Huxtable and I loved her poise, and I love the gentleness, but also the firmness and the accountability that she gave to her children. And I used that to say, dang, that would be nice. And then I looked at Uncle Phil, who's someone that was very stern, but also someone who had a sense of humor, and that, was a provider, and that was someone that gave care. And so I used those people from television and storylines and movies and stuff like that to be able to inspire me. Queen Latifah, and watching shows like In Living Color and being like, oh, a black lawyer, and finding these pieces of power and magic that was breadcrumbed to us through the media.
Of course.
And then also just there's powerful women in my family that they don't necessarily, they didn't find the perfect way, or they didn't get they weren't necessarily able to stand as strongly or as firmly in their power as I would have liked, or as they would have liked. But it doesn't take away from the strength that was present in the midst of adversity. And so, I was raised around very, very beautiful, very, very strong women that all had, that were going through shit, but they still rose to so many occasions. And even though I would have liked for them to show up for me in a different ways, I can still look back and honor the ways that they expressed themselves in the world and say that I was inspired by that.
Right. And it's again running things through that filter of their experience, and then
acknowledging humans as humans, and then saying that people do what they know how to do.
Exactly. They do what they can with what they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's been something so often that I've had to, just looking in my own upbringing and looking back at my parents, and like you said, ways that I wish they would have stepped up, but I can only not just stepped up, or just would have done things differently. It wasn't, it was things that weren't handled in the way that I would have, or that I believe would have been better for my growth, or things like that.
Absolutely, because people are doing the best they can with what they have, which is what you said. And it's just you don't learn that until you come into the world and you come into yourself. When you see yourself, we back to that.
Yeah.
When you can, when I stopped looking at my mom as my mom and looked at her as like a human and as a woman who had experienced lots of different things, and then I was like, oh, while she was being a woman, and not just my mom, she experienced this. And as a woman, these are the things that I experienced. And, and you know, there's some areas where I was short-sighted and where I was selfish and I didn't see the things that I needed to do. And it didn't mean that I didn't love the people in my life, that I didn't, you know, wish the best or think that I was doing the best when I was doing it, you know? And so it's just like, see yourself so you can see other people.
Exactly. And it's,
and forgive them, and forgive them. Not forget, hold them accountable, and say, hey, I wish this hurt me, right? Advocating for yourself enough to say, this was my experience with you, and while I know that you didn't do it intentionally, this is how it impacted me, right? Because intention does not change impact.
Exactly. That's so important to, especially when it comes to, for both. It's important on both ends of that interaction, because you can feel any type of, it's acknowledging that may not have been your intention, but this is the impact. But you can't then on the other side of that be, well, I didn't mean to do that. So you have to acknowledge that you can't hide behind intention.
No, you cannot hide behind
It's the biggest
intention.
thing.
Right? And I'm not expecting you to dig back into the past to fix it. I'm just asking for you to acknowledge the way that it impacted me in my life, and, you know, take accountability to say, while that wasn't my intention, I take responsibility for the ways in which my actions caused you harm.
Exactly. I understand that it impacted you, and that's something that is undeniable. Like Louis C.K. had a joke about, or not a joke, it was in his show, Louis, but where he had said that, like, when someone tells you you're an asshole, you don't get to say, no, I'm not. Like, you have to acknowledge what you did. Like, you can say, yeah, or no, it was what, now I'm getting bits mixed up because I need you. He said, you don't get to tell someone that you didn't hurt them, because that impact is still there. And so it's so much of it in life. I think we do it. I do it. I know. I try to rid myself of shame and blame and things that hold me down.
Grace. Give yourself grace.
Exactly. But grace can only come with acknowledging where you're falling short, like by your own personal standards. You have to acknowledge that and be like, okay, no, I am, but ignoring whatever you're doing, just by saying that it wasn't intentional or it wasn't my fault or whatever. It's not giving yourself, it's living, again, in ignorance.
Right. And so, you know, also just like thinking about things like blame, we don't necessarily have to. For me, the way that I've grown in feelings is just like finding neutrality, right? Understanding that what has been, and that's all that we have to work with. Right. And so, you know, giving yourself the space to not have the expression of another person take you over. Maintaining control, staying grounded, being mindful, breathing so that you can say, while your actions have impacted me so much, they don't impact me enough that I am exploding, or that I am now causing adverse bubbles of reality to, you know, like extend and affect other people.
It's not taking you to an altered state,
right,
of self.
Feel your feelings, right? Feel your feelings, acknowledge your feelings, be hurt, but also staying grounded and firm in who you are as a person, and don't allow the expressions of another to take you to a place where you don't need to go. But ultimately, no one can make you do anything. So anything that arises in you is a part of who you are, and something that you have to work to expel. Address and expel. Yeah. If it's not beneficial. It's not beneficial. Yeah.
Yes, of course. This has been a beneficial experience, I believe, personally.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. It's a drive. I understand.
Oh,
but
it's all good. I'm happy to have come.
Thank you so much. Again, everyone, you can... before I say that, is there anything you would like as a message for this episode, or for this time?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about just a few things that I have going on right now in the world.
Yes, because I know you have a couple events coming up.
Yeah, I do have a couple events coming up. I am currently teaching with the Diatribe Inc., which is a nonprofit organization, arts and culture nonprofit, and we are doing good work in the community, working with youth, working with young people, trying to build community, trying to shift paradigms. So please, check out the Diatribe.
Of course.
Diatribeinc.org. Check them out. Check us out. And then outside of that, I am in the summer programming that I'm doing. I do have spaces in my virtual class for students 6 to 12. So you can always reach out to me on my website, kydsatit.com, to get your young people signed up to use language and poetry as a means to get closer to home, and also to be able to advocate for ourselves in different areas of the world.
Give them an outlet early.
Give them an outlet early. Honor their expressions early. Love on them. Affirm. All of those beautiful things. And so my next thing that I have going on, July 11th, I'll be at the Hideout, which is the open mic once a month on Sundays at the Hideout. And so I will be there July 11th. And then July 17th, Kyd Kane Poetry presents Pride in Poetry Everywhere. It is a Site Lab collaboration along with Oxbow and Saugatuck Arts. Yes. And it's an all-queer lineup in Douglas, Michigan, Wade's Bayou. There will be people who are rejoicing in their queer identities and their pride, and also poets everywhere spitting poetry,
which is expression.
And there'll be interactive letterpress from Not Design, delicious beer available, and we'll be right on the water, Wade's Bayou, which is awesome. And then other than that, August 24th there'll be the Diatribe Summer Pop-Up, which is at Garfield Park, and that's in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's poetry and an evening of intentionality, peace, love, poetry, self-expression, and the voices of the people that are going to be running the city. Right.
Just the future as well.
The future, they're running the city. That they're learning to advocate. They're learning to speak. They're learning to rejoice. And so, when you teach people those essential things, they can go into the world and bring about incredible change.
Right. The impact that we're all trying to make, or so it seems. That we only can do through self-expression and self-exploration first.
Absolutely.
Actualization. Thank you so much for benefiting me with this time, and I would hope this audience of listeners, and I really hope to stay in contact with you.
Oh, for sure.
I hope to do this again as well.
This has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Shalom. Please follow Kyd Said It on Instagram and Twitter, and Kiddin' Around on TikTok. KydSaidIt.com, the DiatribeInc.com.
.org, but you can confirm all of that and put the little
we'll do it in post.
Give them little snips.
And you guys can follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Where Is This Going Pod on Instagram, on Twitter, Where Is This Go Po. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at _Hunter Miles. And
can I say tattoo?
Tattoo. Oh, this one? Yes.
Oh, Pisces? Are you Pisces? Yeah. Oh.
I saw that too.
When's your birthday?
I should have addressed it. February 24th.
February 24th. Oh, my mom's the 20th.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and I'm a March 10, a March Pisces.
My sister's a March Pisces too.
Yeah.
So shout out Pisces gang. And go ahead, follow me on TikTok if you want, at Hunter Miles Comedy.
Oh, you should follow him.
Please. And also, Kidding Around on TikTok. Let's make TikTok a thing. You know what? I'm done resisting. Here we go.
Don't lead in resistance in any area. It is 4th of July. Be free.
Be free. That's the only thing I'll subscribe to today.
It's
be free.
Be free.
Amen.
Thank you.
Of course. Goodbye.